Boom. All right, ladies and gentlemen, I get it. Your business needs to grow, but you're feeling stagnant and you need a little bit of help. Maybe a subscription-based growth model will work for you. If that's something you're interested in, this episode's for you. Let's get this one going. Here we go.
Shut up and sit down.
Look, a business can give you everything you want in life. Prestige, wealth, freedom. It can also take everything away from you. This show is for those who are willing to take that risk. These are the real life stories of entrepreneurs. But before we start, I have one small favor to ask. Please leave a comment. It can be advice, critiques, tips, feedback, or share this with someone because your engagement is the most valuable and most powerful form of social currency. So thank you, and welcome to another episode of Business Bros. Are you the founder or executive of a subscription-based business? Are you facing a challenge of stagnant growth, seeking to accelerate your business success? Our guest today is an accomplished entrepreneur, growth mentor, and best-selling author. With his extensive experience in scaling and selling companies, he has become a leading expert in driving exponential growth for subscription-based businesses. In this episode, he's going to share his insights, strategies and the compounding architectural method that can transform your business growth trajectory. Get ready to unlock the secrets of supercharging your subscription-based business. So let's welcome to the episode, Mr. Travis Steffen. Now we can get this party started. Travis, thank you for coming on the show today.
Thanks for having me. That was great.
Man, it's a fun day, dude. My idea is, look, you're going to come on here. We're going to have some fun podcasting. Might as well enjoy the experience, right?
Indeed.
All right, let's jump into this thing, man. First, I kind of jumped into your intro at the beginning, but tell me a little bit about yourself. How'd you get to where you are today?
I mean, it was a great intro. We should hire you guys for PR. But how I got to where I am today has been a long and crazy journey for sure. It started back in, I want to say it was 2009. I was fighting professionally and playing professional online poker and realized, what am I doing with my life? I'm just getting punched in the face for a living or trading money with a bunch of other nerds on the internet like me and not really doing anything for the world. So withdrew part of my bankroll, thankfully, before the DOJ came in and scooped up all of online poker's everything here in the States on April 15th, 2011. Mm-hmm. So thankfully before that, I was able to withdraw a good chunk of my bankroll and start my first company. Kind of got bit by the startup bug and started a second one in tandem with that. That would align with my my graduate degree at the time that I was getting. And those two were just kind of my training wheels, to be honest with you. And, the first one was an e-com company. We were just doing mixed martial arts, clothing, apparel, equipment, et cetera. We were sourcing, equipment from Pakistan and the Middle East. We were sourcing clothing from around the country and basically just traveling to all the shows around the Midwest and setting up booths and just getting to know how to do business. I didn't have a business background at all. Just learned a lot by messing up, reading books, asking questions, and making mistakes. Oftentimes very expensive ones. Yep. And then over the course of time, just realized, okay, maybe getting out of this physical products game would be a good idea. And my other company at the time was my very first foray into subscription-based online business. And it was a company called Workout Box. And we were just building a platform for personal trainers to create their own online interactive fitness company for free. And we ran that one for about 5 years before selling it. And then in tandem, just sold a bunch of smaller companies that I had started, scaled up a little bit and sold, got into Silicon Valley shortly thereafter and started building a few other bigger ones, learned how to raise capital, got involved with the whole scene over there. And then just over the course of several more years, was able to go get an MBA. I'm in a doctoral program now for marketing and artificial intelligence. Got involved in mentorship, so got involved with all the big accelerator programs in the Valley, 500 startups, Techstars, SOSV, Hacks, IndieBio, Orbit, Level Up, all those. Started working with a bunch of VCs to help their portfolio company founders grow faster. And I mean, there's a lot in there that I'm forgetting, but that's just the quick and dirty.
Yeah, so basically you have zero experience and this is the first time you're doing it, right? That's what it sounds like to me.
Absolutely.
No, man, that's amazing. And I'm curious, you had the first business which was product based, and a lot of people have success in the product based business and they don't go away. They continue to bring on additional products, different types of things. Maybe they go to a retail location, brick and mortar, whatever it is. But you kind of went over to a subscription model. What was that aha moment? When did you decide, like, wait a minute, this is way better?
The biggest aha moment, honestly, was the fact that we might have had a really great sales month, and the next month would turn around and we would have to start from zero every single month. There was inventory to manage, there were shipping issues and logistics. Some of the products sometimes that we got sourced was incorrect, so we would have just wasted a lot of money on something that was wrong. And then just in conversation with a couple other entrepreneurs that I had met along the way, I was just really active in a lot of different forums, just asking questions and trying to have conversations with as many people as possible who would talk to me, because I didn't have a background in business and was just learning everything on the fly. The aha moment was just, if you have a subscription-based business instead, you're not starting from zero every month. You still have the revenue you had from the prior month, and you can build off of that base. And that's why so many venture-backed companies are subscription-based businesses, where they can capitalize on their past successes from a revenue perspective in subsequent months. So they're not always just starting from scratch. They can use their existing resources to build more revenue, as long as they're continuing to offer value to the clients they have.
The recurring revenue model it's money, dude. Like, literally, you can project what's going to happen in the next couple months, the next couple years. You know exactly where you're at. You can budget, you can predict. That's exactly what a VC is looking for. Is they want that predictability in a company, that they can put their money in and know that it's going to have some sort of growth. Tell me about the compounding architecture method. What is that?
Yeah, the compounding architecture method is kind of a name that we gave to a system that's already been in place in Silicon Valley for quite some time. In some of the biggest, growth teams in the world, they'll basically look to structure. So let me actually back up. A lot of companies will take an approach that is captained by a lot of the internet marketing gurus out there, and it's all funnels. It's linear. Dollars in, customers out, and it's simple to understand. The problem is, there are very few businesses that can truly scale to $100 million or more with that model, because they plateau. You exhaust your best fit customers and you start to scrape against the bottom. Your operating model gets all out of whack and you kind of have to rebuild the business on the fly. If you're building the business to compound, instead, what you're doing is you have a loop-based model. So every single time you feed customers into a system, every spin of that loop, just the acquisition and growth potential of that business increases and increases and increases. An example of this would be, let's say, your Dropbox. And for every user that comes through Dropbox, you have more collaboration opportunities. I have the ability, through using the product, to invite others to the product with me in a way that enhances my core experience and offers them value. I don't feel like a marketer to them. They don't feel like I'm marketing to them at all. They feel like I'm giving them value, and I feel like we're both getting the same value that we both want, right? And over the course of time, the more users that they bring into the platform through that same way, the more collaboration opportunities there are, and the system grows proportionately. So you start with a handful, then you end up with thousands of people that are actually bringing others in for you through using the product. And you don't have to spend a ton of money on marketing. You can accelerate that process through, digital ads and so forth, but eventually you can start to peel that back and just let the viral loops start to compound on their own.
It reminds me of Hotmail. Like, when Hotmail first came out, they had the little thing on the signature at the bottom. Want your own email address? Click here. And it was that way of growing their campaign without ever actually doing any marketing. You, the user, were doing all the marketing for them. I know I do the same thing with Dropbox myself. When we record these episodes, they go into my Dropbox folder. When I share them with the guests, they get a Dropbox link, and it's up to them whether they want to, they can download it directly. But if they want to start using Dropbox, I'm literally promoting that company. Gmail works the same way. A lot of these companies, it's genius to have the users themselves are the ones who are promoting that particular product. So let me ask you, when businesses start a subscription-based model, because it could be a subscription for an actual product. I mean, we said at the beginning you started with a product and moved to a subscription model, but you could have a subscription for a product. For example, I'm with a Dollar Shave Club. So every single month I'm getting billed for, I got to shave the head, right? So I'm getting billed every single month for razors or whatever it is that I'm ordering right there. It's coming as a physical product. You're talking about digital products or courses that are available. Where do people hit the plateau on some of these businesses? What's the biggest struggle that a subscription model based business will face?
Oftentimes it's one of two things. One, it's the margin profile, which is kind of the issue with, and it's not a huge issue in every case. It's just a little bit more capital intensive to have a subscription-based model around a physical product. Your margin profile is going to be lower though, because you have to buy the physical inventory, you have to maintain it and store it and warehouse it. You have to make sure that it doesn't corrode or it doesn't get moldy, or depending on what it is, it doesn't perish. And then you actually have to ship it and make sure that by the time it ships, it's in good shape. So all these things are true, and they can shave away your margin profile. So you really have to get to the point where you're at economies of scale so that margin profile improves and you do have a competitive advantage. So it can be done, absolutely can be done, but it's a little bit more difficult in contrast to digital products, programming, et cetera, software. The place where most subscription-based businesses really fail, though, is retention and engagement. And it's not sexy. Everyone wants to focus on customer acquisition. Very few people want to focus on retaining and engaging with the customers they already have, and oftentimes more deeply monetizing them. But that's by far, mathematically speaking, the most powerful growth lever you have is retention and engagement for subscription-based business, without question.
Yeah, the lifetime value of the client goes way up, because sometimes your customer acquisition cost can be high, whether you're using marketing, doing pay-per-click or paid ads, whatever you're using to acquire that customer. You need to recoup those funds. And I know this happens a lot for a lot of companies. They try to make some sales on the back end. Maybe they recoup their advertising costs. Maybe they make a couple bucks, but because they're not focusing on that retention level, that's it. They got to go and acquire a new customer again, and they get hit with that cost over and over again. So what are some key factors maybe that they can differentiate themselves so that their subscription-based model will actually hit that rapid growth, but then at the same time maintain that clientele?
The first thing that I would say is, why should somebody invite somebody else to your product? And don't use the lazy answer of referral fee, right? Unless you're PayPal and there is an actual functional utility of sending money on the platform because it allows you to demo the platform. If that's not aligned with your core value promise, you've got a problem, right? So you're effectively now segmenting your customers who, let's say you have maybe a $20 or $100 referral fee for, if you were to invite a user and you bring them back, if you bring them to the product, you're effectively having an affiliate program, something like that, right? Not the same. And the reason for that is what happens is that $100 might mean the world to one of your user types. It might mean nothing to the other one. 9 times out of 10, the other one who it means nothing to is actually the user you want. They're less price sensitive. They're going to be less of a headache because they know that they need your product, and they're not going to get hung up on getting every single stick of value and support from your team. So the margin that you make on that user is actually improved. So what I would say is, how can you unlock more additional core product value that aligns with your existing core value promise when you recruit others to use the product with you through use? So like the Dropbox example, like the Hotmail example that you gave is an example we call viral communication. There's 12 different viral engines that we've mapped. There are another 11 compounding architecture growth models in addition to viral loops that we've mapped. And all of them are designed so that you can capitalize on the retention. You ensure that everything is designed mathematically to compound in a way that every passing month, your breadth and your potential for growth just increases and increases and increases. Now, what I would also say is, within your growth model, you're able to, if you've built a correctly formulated growth model, you can pinpoint the exact moment in time where that growth model runs out of fuel. And that growth model specifically is going to tell you, okay, here 2 months out, we need to plan to add another line of revenue or another acquisition channel, or another engagement channel in some way, so that we don't completely run out of steam and risk plateauing.
All right, so that comes down to, we gotta understand the data. We gotta understand the numbers, right? So how important is data and analytics when understanding and optimizing like your growth trajectory, just like you're talking about when it comes to that subscription-based business? In other words, like what metrics or KPIs should we be looking at and focused on so that we can get a better understanding and not kind of hit that stagnant point?
Well, let me actually say this because the actual data points themselves are important. But if you think about the job that you're hiring this data to do for you, you're hiring it to give you clarity and certainty in your decision making. If you wait for 100% of the data to make decisions, usually, especially in startup land, you're acting too late. But if you only have 50% of it, you might as well flip a coin. You have no idea what you need to do, right? So all you can do is gather as much data as you can to make the best possible decisions you can with the information you have, and then be prepared to adapt to new information as it comes. So in terms of KPIs, the first thing I would say is make sure that you don't get KPI overload. Pay attention to a handful of critically important metrics and making sure that you drill into those to understand them on a case-by-case basis. But monitor them, maybe 3 or 4 of them tops, even in big companies, so you don't get data overload. And when you have questions as to why things are happening, that's when you can drill in. But if you just see a giant sea of numbers on a metrics dashboard, your eyes are going to glaze over unless you're a data scientist and you really nerd out on this stuff and you're not really going to use it. You're going to say, hey, we have data. Great. We're data driven. Not usually the case. If you're using it with the intention of going on a fact-finding mission and letting the data speak to you to make decisions and interpretations from it versus going in with a preconceived opinion and using data selectively to validate the opinion you already have, you might as well not use data in those cases, right? So, that's what I would say. In terms of like subscription-based businesses, always start with retention, then go to monetization, then go to activation and habit creation, and then go to customer acquisition. Like in that order, that's what you should pay attention to.
That's a good flow. Why is it important to go in that order versus like where most people would start, which is pricing and monetization right off the top, right? I mean, that usually when you're an entrepreneur, you're thinking, well, how much can I charge for this? And can I get it sold at that price? You kind of restructure the order. Why?
So more often than not, I would say so far with the founders that I've talked to through the existing business that we're building now, no joke, 100% of them in terms of pricing, look at their competitors and they're going to say, this is what the market is charging right now. So this is what we can charge. The problem with that is a lot of those competitors use that exact same methodology and it all came back to one specific source and no one knows why that person made the decision they made, but they basically priced out the entire industry. So what instead, rather than getting caught in a red ocean and giving yourself competition, try to take a different approach, figure out who's being alienated and why, and then price the offer based on the value that you're adding. And the way that you uncover that is through rigorous surveys. Like one of the survey types you can look into is called a Van Westendorp Max Diff survey, where you're basically trying to uncover your core value metric, what you're charging for, and then you're trying to optimize the price in terms of the perceived value that the offer is adding to the customer. How much would they be willing to pay for it? The top end, how much would be so cheap that it feels like it would be, suspect in terms of quality? What would be too expensive and what would feel like a bargain? Questions like those allow you to triangulate the absolute perfect price based on the perceived value that you offer, regardless of what your competitors are charging at all. Because some of your customers aren't going to just go and price shop, right? Especially if you alter the verbiage of your offer so you're not pitting yourself as a direct head-to-head to another competitor, and you offer different things in comparison, which can necessitate a difference in price.
Alex Hormozy has a great book, $100 Million Offer, and he kind of breaks down what makes a good offer for somebody to basically feel dumb saying no to, right? And I feel like that's kind of what you're describing here when you're asking your clients or your potential clients that kind of information. You want essentially all the infinity stones so that you can make the best, snap decision possible that's going to grow your subscription base, because you're literally giving them what they are looking for. When a founder starts off, though, however, they may not have a client base or an audience out front. How do they do this kind of research, or what's the best way they can do this research? Because again, they're probably going to do exactly what you said and go look at a competitor and then make a snap judgment. How do they do this testing up front?
Yeah, one of the things that I would say, I mean, if you don't know where to find and engage with your market so you can survey them and have customer development conversations, you're in trouble already. If you don't know where those people are, you're not going to be able to market that product whenever you build it. And the problem that most people encounter is they go build first and then they're like, okay, how are we going to market this?
Mm.
It's the inverse of what you should do. You should find where they are, engage with them, have as many conversations to discover their pain as quickly as possible, no less than 20 conversations with your ideal avatar to uncover the true pain. 9 times out of 10, if you already have an idea going into those conversations, it's going to be the wrong one. And you'll be in danger of actually trying to skew that data to fit it within the idea that you already have because you're psychologically married to it. So the problem there really is you. It's not the market and it's not where they are. So I would say if you have an idea, set it aside. Go talk to customers that have readily available contact information, a really, really deep problem that patternistically shows up across dozens of interviews, and the budget and willingness to actually solve it. Then you can ask them, where are you looking for solutions? How would you describe the problem? They've now just given you your marketing channels early on. They've given you clues on what your sales copy should be. When you ask them questions like, if you could wave a magic wand, how would you actually use this product to get the outcome? They're actually giving you clues as to what the product experience should look like. So those customer conversations should come way before the actual product offering is formulated.
All right, let's assume we actually did our research. We've talked to that customer, and we're ready to rock and roll. Now we're in the product development phase. You talked about going back to school and learning about AI, which is amazing because it's really over the last couple months changing the landscape of service-based businesses. The amount of things that we can do utilizing AI is incredible. Automations and creation all the way through it's just changing. How do you see this landscape evolving for what customers expect? Or are they even aware of what we're using as tools for AI to give these deliverables? Because I think in the industry, there's a lot of like, well, if AI can do it, won't the customer just do it themselves? And I just don't think that's always the case.
I would agree with that last portion. I don't think the customer will do it themselves. I think as a species, as technology advances, if you think about why a lot of companies are built, it's to save time, alleviate pain, prevent people from having to think for themselves. Like all of these things are true. So there will always be a cohort of customers that will go cobble together things on their own with duct tape and chicken wire, and they'll use generative AI tools to do things on their own, things like that. That's going to happen, and you likely would not have acquired those users anyway because they're the same ones that rather than a really solid SaaS tool, they're going to be using spreadsheets and a lot of fancy queries that it took them a ton of time to develop, but they can get the same outcome. Like just don't target those people. Target the ones that are too busy. They're time poor and cash rich. And like they need solutions that somebody else spent the time and effort to figure out. They're focused on something else. So at the same time, it's basically impossible to predict what the advancements will look like because of the fact that twofold. One, these systems were designed to think more deeply in more vast quantities of across more vast quantities of data, and to just be more advanced than the human mind already is today. That's number one. It's technology. It's not like the whole everyone's talking about, oh, it's like electricity or it's like the internet. It's not like either one of those. It's because neither one of them were meant to mimic and improve upon the existing systems of the human brain, right? And that's what these systems are designed to do. They're designed to be superior thinkers than we are, and more adaptable and just know more. And they already are by far. The other thing that I think would make it really, really difficult to predict how these will evolve is the researchers that built these tools still do not understand the best ways to use them to get the best possible results. They don't understand how they work behind the scenes. Because that's the case, they can't formulate hypotheses on exactly how these systems are best used. There are researchers on YouTube that are teaching the creators of these large language models things that they didn't know. So like all those things are really, really exciting, and it is definitely a black box in a lot of ways that we just have absolutely no way of uncovering it, nor will the human mind ever really be able to comprehend it, because we don't advance nearly as quickly as these systems do.
We can't put the genie back in the bottle. That's what I'm hearing you say, man.
Very
We let the
true.
genie out. It sounds cool until the wishes start going the wrong way. We'll see what happens there. All right, man. What advice do you have for founders or executives of subscription-based businesses who are looking to attract maybe some of that VC money we were talking about earlier to like secure some of that funding to help fuel their growth?
First things first, I would say view raising capital like an enterprise sales process. It's basically that. It's not some, closed doors boys club that you can only be in Stanford or Harvard to get access to. I know a lot of the bloggers on the internet want to point to that. I've never went to schools like that. I still don't to this day have a super deep network. I'm a heads down operator without question. I've raised almost 100 million in capital across the companies that I've grown. And I've always done it through cold outreach. So it's the same as an enterprise sales process. And if you just ensure that you treat the investor as the customer, the desire they have is to buy stock, right? Your product is your stock, and you want to make sure that they have confidence that your stock will rise in value in the same way that they would need confidence that your product can solve a core problem for them. It's exactly the same. You can use the same tools. You can use the same processes. There are different intricacies of the pitch, but there always will be from product to product. And you have to remember that these are people with jobs at the end of the day. A lot of people in Silicon Valley and elsewhere will pedestalize venture capitalists as just these gods that control everything. And they're not. They're people with finance degrees that know how to use spreadsheets. They take directions from their boss. They're just looking for things that fit their core criteria. And 99% of the time, you're not going to be that. Even if you have a great offer, even if you have a great company that's generating a lot of revenue, if you're not a perfect thesis fit based on what they told their limited partners, i.e. the people who give them money to invest, they're not investing their own money. Just keep that in mind. They're investing other people's money. It's just a financial institution like any other. And they've promised those limited partners or LPs, they've promised them that they will expose them to a specific kind of asset class. So even if you have the best deal in the history of humanity, 99% of the investors that you talk to will not be able to invest because you won't be a thesis fit. So if you continue to ask them for referrals, if you continue to ask them for feedback, if you don't take it personally when they pass, and you just continue that process until you've reached your goal and do not stop having conversations until every single dime is in the bank and accounted for, then you'll have a shot at raising a round. But it'll always take twice as long as you think, and it'll always be a crazy psychological journey.
Kind of like dating, man. Just because you're good looking and you got abs and you're ripped doesn't mean you're going to be the fit for every girl that's out there, right? It's a little bit different. There's more to it. You got to fit the criteria. You don't fit the criteria, we're going to move on to the next one. But better luck. Somebody's out there for you. All right, Travis, before we head out, man, tell me about My Growth Team. What is that? What are you doing there?
Yeah, I'll actually let everybody peek behind the curtain a little bit. So the company that I'm building is called growthteam.ai. And we're basically building a Silicon Valley caliber top 0.1% VP of growth using artificial intelligence. It takes some time to do something that intricate because it's one of the most complex knowledge work jobs that exists today. You have to think really creatively. You have to think really analytically. There's a lot of different sources of information you have to cobble together. Sometimes a giant sea of tens of thousands of rows of data, right? In combination with just creative thinking and problem solving and so forth. So we wanted to take that and allow people to actually hire a Silicon Valley caliber VP of growth akin to the ones that you'd find running companies like Dropbox or HubSpot or Uber or anything in between. And in so doing, do so in a way that allows the price approachability for even a bootstrapped early stage founder. So that's inevitably what we're doing behind the scenes. To prove out the model for that, we actually started by building an agency. We wanted to build the efficacy and the process of actually serving the customer so that we could sell outcomes rather than work, right? And then the next step was, all right, let's take a step away from the agency and let's go towards more of a coaching program. And then when the tech product is ready, we'll start gobbling up pieces of the coaching program with the technology. So mygrowthteam.com is effectively the agency / coaching program skin of what behind the scenes is growthteam.ai. So there are still humans in the loop. They're still working with you every single day, but they're using a lot of really, really, really robust and awesome tools that we've custom built behind the scenes to help these companies grow. And we're basically saying, hey, if you don't double your growth rate in 90 days, it's a full refund plus $1,000 cash for wasting your time.
Whew, that's one heck of an offer. And who's this target audience? Who are we focusing on that you can help?
It's subscription-based businesses, exclusively subscription-based businesses. These methods can help any type of business, but the growth models that we've architected are paying attention to subscription-based KPIs particularly. So we would have to just rebuild the growth models for other KPIs if we went to, something like e-com or media or something like that, right? So subscription-based businesses, ideally companies that are doing over 50K a month in monthly recurring revenue or are venture-backed, right? And the reason for that is because we're still staffing humans, it's not the cheapest offer in the world to get started with, and we don't want to cripple anybody's company if they don't have the ability to actually hire people. So that's in essence what we do. That's how we do it. But we only work with like a very small number of companies so that we don't take our eye off the ball in terms of the development of the AI-enabled SaaS platform. So we only take maybe a couple per month.
Perfect. And if somebody fits that model, they're making over that 50K, they're a subscription-based business, they're ready to accelerate their growth, how can they reach out to you to get more information?
You can just go to mygrowthteam.com. The site is not sexy. It's basic. It's a very, very basic couple page, agency style process. And you'll see my pretty face on most of the pages talking on video and so forth. And just opt in, book a call. You're going to have a conversation with a team member of mine. And then once you're in, I'm actually personally giving every single account attention. I'm building those growth models by hand right now with the assistance of our AI behind the scenes. And then everything that we do a lot of rapid experimentation up and down the customer journey, from acquisition to activation, habit creation to monetization to retention and engagement. We're trying to run anywhere between 2 to 3 concurrent experiments for all 4 of those levers always. Basically, we always want several active experiments running so that we can continue to pull those learnings and apply them elsewhere within the business.
All right, ladies and gentlemen, that's the model right there. I don't know if you've ever been in advertising, marketing, or trying to build a company. There's a lot of testing that happens. You're going to test a lot of things. You're going to ask a lot of questions. And sometimes it can get really overwhelming for the average entrepreneur or founder to do that kind of testing. But here is a solution for you. You can easily go to mygrowthteam.com, reach out to Travis and his team, because they're going to accelerate that. I mean, you heard it, 4 different areas that they're focusing their attention on, 2 to 3 different experiments going on at the same time, so you can get the data, the information that you need, and then apply it and implement it into your strategies and really accelerate the growth of your subscription-based business. Travis, thank you very much for coming on the show today, man. I got one more question for you, and it's very much a selfish question, but you're going and getting content made all over the place. We literally told you we're going to do a 30-minute episode so we can turn it into social media clips. What was your experience like creating content with the Business Bros?
It was actually really impressive, to be honest with you. I do probably, 3 or 4 of these interviews a week. The process was actually really fun to jump on. Usually it's somebody will jump on and we'll just start having a conversation, and that's what it is, right? There have been very few, I would say 2 or 3 different cases where I've been very pleasantly surprised in what the process is. And this is definitely one of them.
Sweet, man. That's what I look forward to. Trying to create it and make it as easy as possible. Look, you're in the business of accelerating growth. I'm in the business of creating a good experience while you're making content. Because at the end of the day, there's a lot of people who are just nervous about being on camera, don't like the way they sound. And I try to make it as easy as possible. So appreciate the comment. And thank you very much for coming on the show. Ladies and gentlemen, one more time, if you have a subscription-based business, you feel like you're plateaued, you need to hit that next level, you're in the 50K a month range per month, make sure you guys check out the website, mygrowthteam.com. Travis, thank you very much for coming on the program today. Ladies and gentlemen, we'll catch you guys on the next one. Peace. And we're out.
It's over. Go home.
Is your business in need of marketing? Try starting a podcast, but not just any podcast. Podcast like a pro. We can show you how to take your business from being invisible to becoming a brand people trust. Go to www.businessbros.biz to